And in 23 years, I've done this too many times, to knock on a door at 3 o'clock in the morning, to wake a family up. It's tough.
In 1989, my family moved from Trinidad and Tobago right here to Fort Wayne to live in this home right behind me, because my father was a pastor of a church right across the parking lot. And within the first 2 weeks or so, I saw my first homicide. There was a young black man who was killed right on the front porch of this house, and I looked out of this window that is now boarded up, and I watched him take his last breath. Well, a few years later, my parents were divorced, and my mom and I ended up at this house right behind me. And again, I saw another homicide. And then his body laid right here on this ground, and his blood froze. I realized that he was a young black man. Also, I realized that I was a young black man, and it hit me. That could have been me.
You know, African-American men suffer the highest rate of homicide in our country.
My daughter, she's lost family members. She's lost aunties to homicide. She's lost uncles to homicide, cousins to homicide, and it just hurts.
We have a lot of young people who are getting killed like high school age, and I'd like to see a change.
These are somebody's sons. These are somebody's husbands. These are people's uncles, and these are people's families.
We're dying at a rate of endangered species.
And in the past 10 years, I've been to almost 30 funerals of young men who look like me.
His name was Deshaun. Not too long ago, he was murdered. You could be playing ball with your friends on Monday, and you could be planning a funeral by Friday.
We see young children, young boys especially, who are without mentors, without leadership, without a moral compass. And that is the impact that the issue of homicide has on our community.
The loss of stability amongst the family, the loss of leadership within the communities will only lead to a spiral effect that can only negatively impact not only the black community, but our community as a whole.
And if we can just stop one homicide to where we don't have to look in the eyes of a mother and tell her she's lost a child, it will be worth it.
One block at a time, we can solve and reduce the number of homicides.
Try not to turn a blind eye to this. We can't act like just because it's not affecting us, that is something we don't have to deal with.
And when you have homicides, you have a fear factor, and that fear should not exist.
It's just something that we need to address as a community.
This is an issue and an epidemic that the entire community has to come together to solve.
It's something that we all have to come together and provide possibilities.
Romans 12, 14 through 18.
Bless those who persecute you.
Bless, do not curse.
Rejoice with those who rejoice.
Weep with those who weep.
Live in harmony with one another.
Do not be proud,
but associate with the lowly.
Do not be conceited.
Repay no one evil for evil.
Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody.
Live peacefully with all.
I grew up in a little city that you may know called Detroit, Michigan. I'm very fortunate because as I grew up in the 80s when Detroit was known as the murder capital of the world, it could have been me.
You know, it could have been me. It could be you. It could be your friend, your family member, your brother, your sister.
It could have been me. It can be me.
Fate has it that we don't know whose name was on that bullet. It could have been me.
It could have been me. We could have been hanging out that day. It could have been me.
You know what? It could have been me.
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 Man, you know what? The crimes and the homicides, it could have been me.
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 We need to do something about it so it's not me.
So it's not us.
So it's not someone you love.
So it's not you.
It's not always about where you grew up at. It's about the support system in the community wrapping their arms around you and making sure that you have value and hope and opportunity.
I'm Mayor Tom Henry. Fortunately, most of us have not experienced losing someone to a homicide. For some of our neighbors, friends, and families, though, it has become an unimaginable reality that someone they loved has been the victim of a homicide. Those families deserve to live in a city that cares and supports them through this terrible time. I'm extremely grateful, however, to those churches who have offered to help us with this community challenge, and I pray for the families who've lost loved ones to a homicide. So please pray for our city and the families of homicide victims. Thank you.